That was great. I started following Johannes Göransson's work in blogging, translation, editing, poetry, pageantry, kitsch, and excess after reading a blog post at his publisher, Tarpaulin Sky, that reported on an incident at LSU where a student had written a poem in the style of Göransson's A Colonial Pageant in which we all begin to intricate, a text that novelist Blake Butler responded to by blurbing, "This malaria is fun. Burroughs and Genet and Pock are dead. Long live Göransson." This LSU student left a copy of their poem on the library printer, and it was found by the university police. The student was arrested because of the violent and grotesque words in the poem, and he was eventually released, and he submitted the story to Johannes, by which Johannes responded by saying, "This means that poetry is a crime." After hearing about all this and reading a few poems on Octopus magazine, I had to see what this guy was all about. I picked up his first collection, Dear Raw, and was hooked. While in creative writing workshops one might dismiss uses of sexual imagery and violence for mere shock value, here was a poetry that took that shock as an arena for expression and reveled in it and pushed the nastiness as far as it would go. As someone who grew up in an idyllic town in the wine country of Southern California, I am invigorated by this scream. Johannes' writing flinches from sentence to sentence as if in a fever dream, or how one's thoughts may unravel if they were covered in gasoline and shown a struck match. But Johannes doesn't just contort orgies and revel in the shocking and grotesque. He also invites soldiers, generals, torturers, presidents to enter the theater and climb onto the pile. More than anything, this work brings me so much enjoyment because it shows me what art can do. The murders and child porn don't feel real, and that's the point. This is the art of the kitsch and the gaudy, work where everything goes, a breath of fresh air from the dominant poetry binary between the difficult experimental poetry on one end and a poetry of feeling on the other. This work reminds us, no matter how pretty the blossoms on the tree or how impossible it seems for the word to actually signify the thing it refers to, still, somewhere, quote, the raven sings its ugly, ugly song. Please welcome Johannes Göransson.
I don't know how I'm going to live up to that. I'm really nervous. I'm going to read from this book, Haute Surveillance. It is a novel, kind of. It has a story, but the story is not really the most important part. It is about a guy who's staying in a place called the Shining Mansion on the Hill. And he's staying in a room with the ex-president, who's W. And this place got different. The reason he's there is according to some, because he may have killed a famous starlet, like a teenage starlet, like Britney Spears type. And others think he's there to teach creative writing to veterans who are returning from the war and who need to be taught how to express themselves well. And then there's a wife, and then there's a bunch of anti-abortion protesters, and some other characters that you may not run into or recognize. And at some point they see on TV how a black man has escaped from a trial, and he's roaming the countryside, and they become obsessed with the idea that he's coming for them, the ex-president and this crew of people. So this is basically what happens. And then there's a father voiceover that they think might be to blame for all of this. It might be your Risk Society guy, maybe. So I'm just going to read excerpt, and like I said, the plot's not that important. It's just good to know that maybe, I don't know. I write this from hotel rooms, and because I have a medical condition. The skin bleeds and pinches. It's a ridiculous death I'm living in, and I live it ridiculously in an economy of trickle-down disease. Speaking of dead children, modern architecture makes me nervous. Speaking of dead children, sometimes when I listen to the gates of New Jerusalem, I think I hear a trapped cat scratching wildly. Other times, it's just me. I'm watching a TV show about a trapped cat. It's a sexual act, a slang term. The act involves tattoos and cameras. Speaking of dead children, there is no place for immigrants in utopia, and all filmmakers must be renounced. I could never grow up in a house like that unless I was a dead child, an embalmed child, a child that never vandalized his own doo-wop body with surveillance equipment. I vandalized my doo-wop body due to my modest self-control. I call my line of work haute surveillance. There's a mention of children. There are a lot of children here. His wife has a lot of children, and the children start having children. It's a mess. Then why do I look arrested in photographs and absent in drawings? Insects are pumping their lancets in and out of my sore. It's an almost purple sore. It's a translation, pornography, a child's drawing. My preferred method of making art involves a torso. The best way to do it is with scissors, said my father in an interview about my pig killings. So I write this novel in praise of virgins. I write this novel in praise of virgins because they are occluded and spectacular. I write this novel in praise of virgins and strokes. I write this novel with pig strokes, in fetal positions, with abortion movements. I write this in praise of virgins with a piece of colored glass. I hate wolves. I hate femurs. I hate my body. I hate knick-knack. I hate to see what you've done to my body with the mirror. I hate mirrors. I break them and then I get pissed because I feel like Hollywood. I hate Hollywood for its heap of dead horses. I hate the way my voice sounds over the PA system in the shining mansion on the hill. I love my voice when I'm a carcass on the mirror. We still live in a war economy. I make movies with a war economy. You read case histories with a war economy. I make war movies about perforations and proliferations. You are soundproof. You are warproof. You are surveillance footage. I am blunted out. My language is so counterfeit. I must have cancer. I must have a glass staff with a little beak at the tip. But I don't want to give you the impression that I'm a nihilist. I'm a moralist of the zero mouth. I'm writing this memoir in praise of virgins. I'm placing a flower in a mute girl's belly. A flower taken from the corrupted body of a bludgeoned child. I don't know what the flower is called, but it looked like a curled up fetus. I write this novel as one would write a word on a fetus. This novel is dedicated to the people who shoot bodies. This novel is written like a fashion show dedicated to the rioted body. This novel is based on a vision I had in 1991 in the middle of a riot. It was a counterfeiters riot, and I was passing out from drugs. The singer sang a song about boredom, and I was leveled with a punch. Our mother of the machine gun picked me up and carried me through the mute melee. Our mother of the machine gun. The reason you don't like the war is because you're not in it. Question. Do foreigners always film themselves with tacky plastic video cameras? Question. Do foreigners know how to fantasize that bling, blong, blang? Question. Has a foreigner ever asked you for directions out of the mess room? Question. Have you ever shot a foreigner? All the foreigners were shot because of their incestuous relationship on the set. It was a horrible set. The blowtorch looked tacky and the walls were too soft. I don't ever want to go back there to see what happened in the heat and the way the confetti got so wet and the skin was yucky. I was so blonde, I was your brother. The first lesson in hot surveillance. Always write like you're a teenage virgin. Always reach for the gun. Culture is a taxidermy museum, but the horses are beautiful and the letter openers disinfected. The cum on my face tickles as I type these pages out. foreigner's body must be entered into the pageant as objects to be classified and quantified, and it must be banged up. Banged. Bang. That was the sound of a door. The foreigner's body must be a door. It must be shot with the finest surveillance equipment. It must be shot. It must be numb with cum. I love Kleist. This is one of those little confessions. There are so many soldiers in the mansion that they have been given a room of their own. It's a large room, but there are so many soldiers that they have to cram them in on small cots. They're here to be decontaminated, to have the violence from the theater of war rinsed off them like swans. It's not going so well. It seems every day a soldier kills another soldier with some sharp object. I've been instructed to teach them how to write poetry in order to direct their violence to something more constructive. Father Voiceover doesn't realize that art is violence and vice versa. There's already so much art in these muscular bodies, I can't prevent them from expressing it. I mean, obviously things go badly in here. Of all the movies I made with the starlet, my favorite was our mumble version of Hiroshima Mon Amour, or the Jacobean piece we filmed in a shooting range. The clothes I wore were positively repulsive by the time she was finished with me. My body was covered with wax. I played the part of the wax figures. She played the part of the slaughter. It was also a mumble movie. It was hard to hear anything in the ricochet. Whenever I come to the soldiers' barrack, they're engaged in some kind of art production. Bodies in fetal lamp poses, for example, or snuff videos of daddy ouch ouch it hurts. Corny dances like the hostage crisis, the twist, the pork out, the pile up, the photographs. They love to wear Mickey Mouse masks when they hurt each other like children. "Don't pork me up, Mickey," I hear one man cry as I slam the door. I can't help them. I can just hope to contain them. I need to keep them apart from the anti-abortion protesters and the actors. Swine hunt, I hear from the inside as I swiftly lock the door. The ex-president wants everybody naked. And he wants no sound. It should be deaf in here, he says. And then he points out that there are stains on my clothes and that the letter opener is making an awful racket in my mouth. I'm a dangerous man when I get around the wrong instruments. Milk and blood, I think to myself. It's always this way after a riot. I can't help it if I begin to breathe funny or look funny or hit myself in the face. This is the fault of language. Language is like candy. It rots my teeth. It makes me spazzy. That's why I love skin flicks, the way they pile all those porno bodies up, ugly bodies, the skin color demented by video. In pornos, we're all foreigners, or at least tourists. Everything is art, especially the skin. Sometimes virginity is a state, like a concussion or starvation. Other times it's a visual phenomena. The world looks clean and violent. A foreigner is always a perverted virgin. Throw the foreigner's body in the back seat. Have you ever worked at a meat plant? Watch me read the messy transcriptions. One day I peek into the soldiers' ward and they're all making cod pieces out of egg cartons while drinking Cristal. Which I don't know what it means. Every time I read this, I'm like, I don't know. This is like my daughters love top 40 music and they're always drinking Cristal in the top 40 songs, like Lana Del Rey or whatever. So I'm like, the soldiers are definitely drinking Cristal. John Locke treated words as a kind of currency that became valuable only when backed up with a model of interiority. Words are susceptible to inflation. Insects pile up. I write poetry. The ex-president asked me why my writing is so full of hate, and I tell him it's because I'm searching for the enemy. The ex-president spends most of his time researching black bodies. He's particularly interested in skin diseases and the bodies of black men who have worked as stunt doubles on particularly violent movies. The ex-president is particularly interested in black stunt bodies involving car crashes. He's nostalgic, man, this ex-president we're propping up in the corner. Because I'm an anorexic, I mostly subsist on wafers. Even when the salt is gone, I can taste it there on my wife's lips. Because I'm anorexic, I only eat the cheapest caviar and drink the cheapest champagne. Mother Machine Gun rebukes me. You are a poet. You need to eat your caviar on the spoons made from bones of small children. You need to drink champagne out of my dirty, dirty hands. These hands, which I have used to feed arsenic to the president's president. Every day on television, there are reports of the black man committing strange crimes across the country. He hijacked a car and drowned the children. He wore a Mickey Mouse mask. He let a woman go because she was touched by angels. He stole a cape and a hood from a convenience store. He fucked a young man up the ass while telling him his plans for a race war. He used a glass shard to cut another man's chest red. He left drug paraphernalia in a young woman's bedroom. He had cut on his chest, she said. For every latest news item about the man, the ex-president becomes strangely convinced that the man is getting closer to the mansion, convinced that he's drawn to me, to my corpse-like physique, to my hairless physique, to my cunt mouth. Atrocity catch number 2. Soldiers are putting on a production based on Arabian Nights. I'm trying out for the part of the massacred wife as a way of understanding the war. When I get on stage, the soldiers tell me to put the hood on. Stand still, they keep saying. This won't hurt, they keep saying. Quiet, they keep screaming. I'm as quiet as a massacred wife. I can hear their cameras. I'm freezing. I think I can go now. I can't. How does one describe a stunt body? One does not use narrative. To do so would be to ruin the effect of bodies piled up pell-mell and made of silk. One could describe the stunt bodies as stunted, and that would make sense if by stunted one meant a physical act that keeps happening. It keeps happening, I tell my wife. Stunt bodies, stunt bodies. One best describes such bodies on stage using violent means. One might run down the hall to the corrupt flower and scream out the descriptions. One could say about stunted bodies that they belong to war, or they are obscene like certain flowers, but one cannot quite write a narrative about them. Sell out. Okay, I say to my mirror. Our daughter gets pregnant again. This time it's because my wife and I have fucked in the bathtub and forgotten to wash out the tub before giving our daughter a bath. That's what my wife says. I blame photography. My wife is talking about the death of bees, but she's drawing something in the cum on my belly. The starlet loved bees, but even more she loved the sounds of bee swarms and would frequently use the sound over just about any image. A beautiful girl in shades, an ambulance carrying a dying hero through the streets, horses piled up on a field, a close-up of a mouth whispering obscenities into the ear of our injured hero. Sometimes when I dream about the starlet, she has bee corpses in her mouth. She spits them out on my body. My wife is hard at work on prom queens. They're still too blown up to be lifelike, too mute to have a political impact. She's painting their lips with my semen, using a little brush, a little black brush, the kind of brush she usually uses to decorate my eyelashes. She likes it when it looks like I'm crying. All right, this is the last piece I want to read. This is the infected area against Duchamp. The gun is loaded. The nightingale is wrecked. My face is blotted out. Your face is expensive. I'll finish the shooting with my retina. Thank you.